Welcome.
Welcome to The Ride with Chevy and Nasty. Host Randy Chevrier and Sheldon Napastia guide you through great stories that spark great conversations. Two really big guys talking a big game. The boys are locked in and ready to go. Welcome to The Ride.
Welcome to The Ride, everybody. I'm not sure what happened there, but this is a live show, so things happen from time to time.
Our kids might walk in. Snow might come down. Like, who knows what happens? Who cares? It's The Ride. We're here. You're here. I'm here.
Well, I do know this. It is episode 53, Chev. I am correct this week, 53. I think I tried to assign that a little bit early last week.
Yeah, you did.
And so because of that, I now get to announce our favorite number 53. I think both yours and mine, and any guy we've ever played with, Raheem Abdullah.
Yes.
And those.
Go ahead.
And those of you guys that have been listening to us for a while, and you hear Chevy and I talking about the old Halo Club and the Halo days where we used to link up all the screens in the meeting rooms, and we used to have these epic multiplayer games. I believe you and Raheem were the founders of that whole club when you guys played together for the Eskimos back in the day.
We absolutely were, Sheldon. I spoke to Raheem this week. He was actually thinking about coming on this week, but he didn't have equipment. It's U.S. Thanksgiving. So he's back home in Jacksonville at his mom's with his whole family. He didn't bring his computer. He didn't even have earbuds. So I said, you know what? Let's save it for another time. Raheem, one of the most entertaining guys you'll ever meet, was a great friend of mine, great friend of ours. And yes, we did start the Halo Club in Edmonton when we were there in 2003, actually 2002 into 2003. And that was the original Halo one. And interestingly enough, Nasty, this episode tonight really a lot will center around team culture and team dynamics and, you know, what that Halo Club brought to us. There will be many references, I think, to that in tonight's episode. And so I'm super, super excited about this. We're powered each week by Performance Freight Management, We Drone Real Estate Media. You can find our episodes posted tomorrow, also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. But YYC Business is also our partner with Megapix. We're happy to be live every week with you guys. It's The Ride with Chevy and Nasty, and this is what we got on tap for tonight. It's going to be a great episode. So for tonight, Sheldon, we're going to start it, as we always say, with the 300-pound poetry. Trudeau at the Taylor Swift concert. You know, I thought that was going to be the biggest news of the week, but Sheldon, take it away with the big news that happened today.
Well, the big news that happened today, and we called that this would be the most likely scenario to happen, but folks, it happened. Vernon Adams Jr. is coming to the Calgary Stampeders as our new quarterback going into the 2025 season. Very exciting. So we're going to cover that. We've got, of course, as we always have, we have the Blitz.
And some good topics there, right?
Some good topics this week. Lots happening. Our studs and duds. Chev, I don't even know whose yours are yet, so I'm looking forward to that. Yep. And we're going to hear, in the last segment, we're going to hear from our producer, Trey. He's going to Vancouver to catch a little WWE action this next weekend. So I'm pretty excited. We've been doing a lot of wrestling with Hitman and everything in the last couple of weeks. So I'm kind of excited to hear about Trey's upcoming trip.
And there's always an undertone of wrestling in our show, whether we're talking, like you said, about the Hitman, we've talked about some wrestling in the past, The Rock, we've talked oftentimes about my
Macho Dad,
the Macho
Randy.
Dad. So, there's lots going on, and I think we're going to be working with Hitman Bar in the future. Maybe nothing is imminent, but we left that experience 2 Sundays ago on a very high note with Jamal and Nicole and Dennis. So we're looking forward to maybe a partnership in the future with them. But right now, the partnership we have with you, our loyal listeners, I don't know who's out there right now listening, but if you're live, you know that this segment always starts off in style with a little 300-pound poetry.
And now, 300-pound poetry with Chevy and Nasty.
Here we are eager. We sit ready to recite some 300-pound poetry on this Tuesday night.
Where to begin? Well, the biggest news made when the Stamps and the Lions announced that blockbuster trade.
The Stamps get their quarterback. It's big play VA. While Vernon Adams gets a new home, the Stampeders still need to find their way.
Now, 2 legendary CFL equipment guys go into the Alberta Sports Hall of Fame. Geo Hopkins and Dwayne Mandrusiak, both bigger than the game.
Sure are, but they're short. Lots of topics to cover, from sports to world events. While our Prime Minister was partying at a Taylor Swift concert, we've got more and more folks living in tents.
It's the ride with Chevy and Nasty, and what can we say? So much snow on our Calgary streets. We might have had to record this riding in our sleigh.
Or in Santa's sleigh.
That's Santa's sleigh. Yeah, Santa's sleigh.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be back on the show with you. We always want to kick it off with a good note, and like you said in the poem, there's big news out of Stampeder land, but I think we're going to cover that in the second segment. For me, the biggest thing this weekend, Sheldon, when I was looking at news, I didn't get to follow too much sports this weekend, but the one story that jumped out at me was, and we referenced in the poem, was Justin Trudeau. At a Taylor Swift concert, acting the fool. Listen, I don't know if we have the video of it, and Trey will let us know if we have the video of it, but we're in a crisis here. We're in a crisis. Montreal's burning. We got people protesting on the streets, living in tents. There's an affordability crisis. You can't even afford a meal for your family without it really hitting you in the pocketbooks, wondering where the next one's going to come from. And that's average everyday people. We're not talking about people without jobs. We're talking about average income earners. It's getting harder and harder. It's been harder and harder. And we've got a prime minister that's partying his way to the end of his tenure and, watching the rest of it burn. And it really unsettled me, Sheldon. It really unsettles me. I don't even know where to go with this. I'm just pissed off because everyone knows that I'm not the ultra conservative guy and I'm not the ultra liberal guy. I'm the guy that kind of sees things for what they are, kind of down the middle. I kind of understand the way one side leans. I kind of understand the way the other side leans, but I'll call bullshit on either side when there's bullshit. And for me, this is the ultimate bullshit.
Well, you know what? And I'll tell you what, it feels a lot to me like that famous French queen that was out of touch with her people and ended up losing her head. And the famous statement quoted to her was, well, let them eat cake.
Yeah, let them eat cake.
And what compounded this to me is, and you forgot to mention too, that it was actually the NATO convention was going on in Canada. They're discussing the war in Israel, Lebanon, in Gaza, how to handle Russia. There are some very real world problems going on, let alone the mess that we find ourselves in Canada right now. And they followed it up by the deputy prime minister, Chrystia Freeland, came out with a lecture this weekend talking about the economy's actually strong, guys. It is strong. What you're experiencing, you as Canadians, is a vibe session, not a recession, a vibe session.
A vibe. What does that mean? What is that? What is a vibe session? Tell me what that is.
You know, what she's saying is we're far from a recession because actually our economic growth has increased year over year over year over year. But the best analogy I heard of, like since 2020, we have been growing each year. So on paper, from an academic standpoint, Canada's economy is growing. But what they don't factor in is the fact that while our GDP has been inching up slightly, our population growth is out of control. So we are becoming poorer as a percentage of the GDP every single day that this party's in power.
And you know what?
Second of all, go ahead. No,
I was just, you follow and know politics a lot more than me, both north and south of the board. This is how I see it, as a very, don't take me for anything more than I am, but we got a prime minister that spent the last 10 years trying to bring everyone in, which is fine. Canada was built on immigration. All of a sudden, we see what uncontrolled immigration has done, just opening the borders. They elect Donald Trump a couple of weeks ago in the States. You know how he's going to come down hard on Canada, where he just said he's going to introduce tariffs if we can't figure out our borders. So what does Trudeau do? Puts out this video to, again, appease the masses. Hey, we're going to stop immigration for 2 years. All of a sudden the doors are closed. He speaks out of both sides of his mouth. And then you got that. And then on the other end, you got protests across Canada where not just people from outside of Canada, but people within Canada that have literally been radicalized and brought foreign conflicts to us, screaming death to Canada. Like, I can't believe I even see that in my own country. So this thing is like, I know it's not so bleak that it's burning to the ground, but when you're saying the economy is good and now all of a sudden to stimulate people to appease them, let them eat cake, you're giving them a GST rebate so you don't collect a tax money on them. Why don't you scrap the carbon tax that everybody's been trying to scrap so that we can get at least an economy in Alberta, the driver of the country, back on track? It's so mismanaged. So you mentioned Chrystia Freeland, her degrees in Slavic studies, she didn't study anything to do with money. Nothing about money. And I might know
she was a journalist, Chef. She was a journalist.
It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You know what? And I listen. Let me take a breath here.
Yeah.
I don't care. You got a high pressure job. Whether you suck at a high pressure job or you're good at a high pressure job, you got a high pressure job. I get it. You might need to blow off some steam. I get it. You want to go watch a Taylor Swift concert. I don't even know who he went with. He doesn't have a wife anymore. I don't know if he's got a daughter young enough. And go on his own, whatever. You're at a Taylor Swift concert. You're the prime minister of one of the largest countries in the world. Why don't you just go watch the concert and sit there looking like a politician and someone that people would follow than an absolute fool? Let's look at the video of this. Let's look at our court jester of a prime minister acting the fool at the Taylor Swift concert.
And as Toronto gets ready to bid farewell to the Eras Tour, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in the crowd for the penultimate show on Friday. It marks the first time the Prime Minister attended what's been a record-breaking series of concerts in Toronto. Hundreds of thousands of fans have descended on the city for a glimpse of the pop icon.
Chev, he knew the words. He had the moves. He had the friendship bracelets on.
Yeah, a week ago, your friendship bracelets got those ladies' friendship bracelets got confiscated at the airport. I wish his got confiscated.
You know what I wish happened, Chev? And Jamin writes in saying, "I hope he's Jake Paul's next fight." Well, famously, Trudeau did do a celebrity boxing match, and that would be awesome, folks. Yeah. But I don't think it's going to happen. But I do know this. This time of year, things are getting more and more expensive. But so I had a story that happened to me this week. I was shooting a property on Friday afternoon. Yeah. It was my second shoot of the day, and I'm going through click, 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 click. I'm getting everything done, and all of a sudden, click, click, clunk. And there's this sickly sound coming out of my camera I'd never heard before. I look down, my shutter's stuck halfway open. The thing's not working at all. And I'm like, great. These fancy little Sony cameras cost an arm and a leg. I mean, you're spending, and that's not even expensive, but the lenses are the real expensive part. But I'm like, okay, great. Here's $3,000 just right there. What am I going to do? I got to finish the shoot. I ran it to the camera store in Calgary, who were amazing. They sent it off to Toronto to get looked at. I could probably fix it, use it as a backup camera. But they rented me out a free upgrade camera for the weekend to finish up my work. And then said, hey, don't buy until next week. We've got these amazing Black Friday sales coming on. And I was like,
Nice.
well, the high-end electronics usually aren't subject to that. But I got a brand new camera, $500 off. Dude,
No way.
I love Black Friday. I still don't want to pay it, like, because I'm paying way more for everything else in my life. But to get that one little bit of good news that wasn't a $250 GST rebate check that I'm going to have to pay for my taxes next year, I was thrilled to save $500 on a high-end electronic.
And that's great that you bring it up. And I'm glad you got me off the Trudeau thing, because I think I was going to go off a cliff there just because of how angry I am. You know, again, I'm going to flip to what we're talking about now. When you talk about that, it's great you bring that up, because even me, I had a bit of time this weekend, and I was in Red Deer with Brittany, and we decided to go to the mall. And, you know, I haven't been to a mall shopping with intent for a long time. And we went on Black Friday, and that mall is great because there's not a lot of people there when we got there. And I was looking at the deals at the stores, and I'm like, man, I would be stupid not to take the time right now to buy the gifts for my kids that maybe I would buy them in a month from now, 2 weeks before Christmas. Because, yeah, there's some great, like, there's stores in the malls. I don't know all the stores. I'm not a shopper guy, but I went into this store called Blue Notes. They got clothes. They got college football gear. They got graphic tees. They got all, and everything was like 50% off in the store that day. Or buy one t-shirt, get two free. I was like, man, if you need that break, if you still want to do Christmas and you want to, you know, and gift giving is part of your tradition. Not everyone gives gifts. You know, I actually don't give a ton of gifts. I do that. I told you what I do with my boys. I do a movie experience with them. I buy them a membership to the Landmark cinemas, and every month they get a movie, and if they don't use it, it builds up. But I bought them a couple of things, and I really felt good that I got a deal. And then when I look today, and it's not even Black Friday yet, I mentioned, you know, Raheem Abdullah in Jacksonville for Thanksgiving. It's starting this Friday after U.S. Thanksgiving. But I looked on Amazon, the amount of stuff that's there that you can get a good deal on. Like, it's Brittany's birthday on Saturday. Guess what? I did my Black Friday birthday shopping for Brittany on Amazon, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. I'm not feeling as heavy a pinch in the wallet. And you know what? Thinking about it, talking about it with you, kind of takes me away from the Grinch that I was to start this segment when I talked about Trudeau, and really makes me appreciate, you know, the joy that you see behind me here of my Christmas decorations having gone up. And, you know, I actually feel excited going into Christmas because, you know, I got some of that stuff done, just like you got your camera. And yeah, there are deals to be had. And in a tough economy, you know, we're not feeling a vibe. We are feeling something. It's nice to know that if you're a little bit proactive, you can kind of give yourself some relief instead of relying on someone else to give you some relief, you know?
Yeah. So you've got the Christmas lights in the background. Have you set up the tree already?
Oh yeah.
Are you in early? So you've done everything.
Yeah.
I know.
See
I
it
saw
right
the.
there? You see it?
Yeah.
Right there.
There you go.
There's the tree.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I love Christmas. The boys came over. So this is the thing. You know, my boys come over you know, every second week. So they came over Monday, and that's the first thing I said. I said, boys, we put up the tree 2 weeks ago when they were here, waited a week. Today, this week was the ball. So we put up the balls, put up some other stuff. So yeah, I love Christmas. You know me, I said, I love Christmas. We talked about it last year. It's my favorite time of the year. The Christmas tree is very important for me. It's an artificial tree, but I get it up as early as I can because I love enjoying. I sleep on the couch on purpose during Christmas season because I just love sleeping with the Christmas lights. That's how much I love it. Do you have yours up? Do you have yours up?
Ours is going up on. My wife just told me it's going up Thursday or Wednesday if she calls in sick. And now since I put it out the air, I don't think she can call in sick to WestJet. So
what about outdoor decorations? Are you guys like the Griswolds? Because you have like a single family.
Yeah, we've got our trees with all the LEDs and all that stuff.
Because I live in a townhome. I live in a town, so I don't put up the lights, but I got one of these projectors that kind of projects snowflakes on my surface, and I got I think it's like a 12-foot Santa. I think I sent you a picture of him. My 12-foot Santa. He's
knocked over in the snow.
Yeah, I don't know if Trey has it there. Oh yeah, there he is. There he is. I came back to Santa. He was hung over from a good weekend while I was gone to Red Deer, but I had to put him upright. And yeah, he's a huge Santa. My girlfriend thinks he's absolutely terrible. And when someone tells me that, the only thing to do is to order another Santa and plant it on her yard, right?
Yeah. There
Wouldn't
you
that be
go.
the thing? I want to get her a Grinch. Actually, that's why, an inflatable Grinch. But yeah, no, I love Christmas. Do you love Christmas as much as me, or is it just the next season?
Yeah, no, I love Christmas. I mean, for me, Christmas is always going to be first. Halloween is actually second, behind that. But Christmas has always been the big one for me. I mean, it's just so magical. I grew up in the land of, Disney and, those Disney decorations. I think you said you had a Mickey Mouse in your house somewhere.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I've always loved Christmas. As you get older, you have to work a little harder. Maybe that's an episode we'll talk about later on to tell your Christmas tree story again. But I love Christmas. I look forward to it every year. And right now, folks, Christmas may have just came early for the Calgary Stampeders season ticket holders. We're going to take a quick break though. But when we come back, let's take a look at that Vernon Adams trade. Right here on The Ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
We're back. It's The Ride with Chevy and Nasty every Tuesday night live, 10:30 p.m. We're brought to you by Performance Freight Management, We Drone Real Estate Media, and YYC Business. You can find us on all our socials, and please like and subscribe. Tell a friend, share the link to this show's episode. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. There it is right there. We're also on TikTok. We've been putting out a lot of reels on TikTok. Now, I'm going to apologize before we get into stamps because I got fired up. You know me, I like to stay down. I play it cool when it comes to politics. I play it cool, and I don't like to get too controversial. But for me, what I saw would be the equivalent of if the wildfires were happening in Alberta, and Alberta is burning down, and the fire chief is at a rock concert partying on, getting caught on film. It just, the optics, when you talk about optics and you talk about leadership, things, and we might touch on it later. We talked about this, when we talked about, our old head coach, Tom Higgins, who we had in Calgary and we had in Edmonton. And whenever there was a deal to be had, whenever there was something that people were offering the team, if it wasn't available for everyone in the organization, from the coaches to the president, to the players below them, to the equipment managers, to the ticket people, if it wasn't available to everyone, the Edmonton Eskimos under Tom Higgins' leadership would refuse it. And when we did have a deal, we knew that everyone in the family had it. And it didn't create a classist system. And we know that as athletes, there's going to be some guys that are treated better than others, usually the quarterbacks, and that's usually by the outside world. But inside the organization, when you're treated fairly, like a family, you don't feel that. And that's what I feel this exemplified. A guy that never had to suffer in his life for anything, got silver spooned his way through life, never had to know where his next paycheck's coming, never been cut from a job, never worried about a paycheck, getting, something that most people don't have access to. Like, you try and ask an actual Taylor Swift fan how long they've waited to get a ticket, or how much it would cost them to get a ticket. It's unattainable for the average working stiff. And here we have our leader that can't empathize on a good day with most Canadians. In our worst moments where we're on the brink, he's doing something that most people can't even relate to. And he can't relate to, like we said in the poem, people living in the tents more and more every day. And I see it. I see it in my job as a firefighter. More and more people living in tents every day, can't afford housing, and no end in sight. So I'm going to apologize because
You're on fire, Chev. You're feeling this.
I am feeling it. I hate lack of leadership. And if there's one thing about me that I don't like. If anyone says, well, what's one of your big tenets of who I hate? Injustice. I hate injustice when things are unjust, and seeing him in this position where he seems so aloof and so disconnected from the 38 million people he's supposed to represent. And then forget about the different territories and provinces. It just makes me upset. It makes me upset to no end. And like I said, if it was a coach, if it was the fire chief, if it was the police chief or the mayor of Calgary, it would be wrong. And
you want to see something cool?
Yeah,
and that's a great take. I love it. And that's going to come up because I think leadership is going to come up again. But we're going to talk about injustice. And, was this justice? Vernon Adams signs on, leads BC for 2 seasons. Nathan Rourke gets cut, comes back, is assigned as a starter his first game back. Now, Vernon Adams was injured, but he didn't relinquish the role to Vernon when he was healthy until he played his way out of it. Today, this is big news. Like, this really is. Your quarterback, there's a lot of things that go into a football organization, a football team, and the organization as a whole. But your quarterback is probably your most important building block on the field. Vernon Adams getting traded to Calgary today. Thoughts? Is this the answer to Calgary's problems? And do you think that Vernon Adams is celebrating this right now, or how do you think he's feeling about this trade? I know I just asked you 2 questions, but go.
Well, let's start with the trade. We'll talk about this being the answer to the Stampeders' woes or not as we evolve this. But first of all, let's let this sit. This is a big trade. This is a big deal. We knew, like you said, it was bound to happen. Too many quarterbacks, not just in BC, too many, like the money that they had tied up in these 2 guys, and the way both of them, Nathan Rourke has the potential to play, and Vernon Adams was playing. It was inevitable that they were going to move him. But gosh, the CFL right now is ripe with quarterbacks, save maybe for one spot, and that was Calgary. The only other if we thought is potentially if they trade him out of the division, but I don't see anybody in the East that truly needed him. Like Ottawa's the only one that I would think, oh, maybe, but they're not going to get rid of Drew Brown, who they just spent the whole offseason courting. So it really was going to fall in Calgary's lap, or Vernon Adams was going to fall in, or possibly I was thinking Edmonton, but this is a big deal. Now, you look the other way, you don't see BC getting too much. A lot of draft picks, and people say, well, how can you trade such a high value commodity like Vernon Adams for Canadian draft picks? And that's very typical of the CFL. That's very, very typical, where you might see a highly proven commodity get traded for a bunch of draft picks because, in the CFL, the hardest thing to come by is good Canadians. And the best way to get good Canadians is to make sure you draft lots of Canadians. So I think BC, they were kind of forced. It's not like, and, with the Stampeders record, it's not like there's a lot of players that they wanted. They've got a stocked receiving core. They're not going to ask for Reggie Begelton. He's literally the Stamps' only receiver right now. That's been Mr. Reliable all year. They're not getting rid of him. And after that, what else would they ask for? So I think BC did all right, but Stampeders, for sure, in my opinion, they got not just a quarterback. Like, I don't think he's just a guy. I think they got a blue chipper, a proven guy. Like, we were talking about Vernon Adams midseason as being the front runner for the MOP in the CFL until he got hurt.
Yeah.
There was no question. There was no one even close. There was no one even close to his. I mean, where
and to be fair, that's the 2nd season in a row, because we were at certain points last year. Vernon Adams was the next great thing to happen to the West, and certainly to the BC Lions. I mean, the guy's been a stud. I know when he first came in, there's a criticism that he tails off at the end of the season. He gets injured, things like that. I would say 2 years in a row. Yes, he got injured, But his level of play, he plays his way back into a starting position. I mean, the guy's still the real deal, and I think he's got some years on him. So for a situation like Calgary, he might not be your 5 or 7 year solution, but he's certainly going to improve your club for the next 3 seasons.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think he's an instant leader. I love everything about Vernon Adams. Like everything I've seen from him since he was traded from Montreal a couple of years ago. And he went to BC and he filled that role when Nathan Rourke got hurt that season. He's always just been a team guy. You saw that it was his team this year. There was definitely some, we talk about locker room chemistry that, bringing Nathan Rourke to the BC Lions mid-season, as much as it's a business move, as much as Nathan Rourke, has the potential to be that great player he was a few years before he went to the NFL, that disrupted their locker room. And it caused them some growing pains. The receivers had to learn a new quarterback that hadn't played in the Canadian system for the longest time, had to reestablish himself and learn the game. Meanwhile, you got Vernon Adams waiting for his chance. And, when he did get his chance, he was spectacular. He was spectacular in the last 2 games of the season. If you think against the Alouettes and then against the Riders, he was named the starter for that reason, because of his play late in the season. Let's watch a little highlight clip of Vernon Adams. This is what the Stampeders fans are in store for in the 2025 season.
Vernon Adams Jr. finishes the job. Adams pump fake. Hangs in the pocket, takes a shot down the field. He's got Hollins down to the 20, cuts it inside of the 10, back to the 5, and he's home. Incredible pace here by Vernon Adams. We got it done. Adams. We on the run. Takes off. We on the run. 5 touchdowns. We got it done. We on the run. Vernon Adams will look to do it himself. Gets home. He's fired up. We got it done. We on the run. We on the run. Touchdown to line. We got it done. We on the run. Hat-trick of touchdowns for Vernon Adams Jr.
So what gets me so excited about this, and I've talked about it from watching a lot of games, and I was talking about quarterbacks. Jake Mayer did a nice job. He put up a lot of yards, but I always felt in a lot of games the passes were off, slightly behind. Yes, our receivers could go and get them, and then they'd have to spin around to change their momentum. And this was just a highlight film, but when you watch that, what you're seeing is balls on point. He is one of the most accurate passers in the CFL right now. And he's also very mobile. And I don't mean he's not going to beat you very often by breaking out of the quarterback, out of the pocket and running. He will do it when the time calls for it. He's not afraid to do it. He's very capable. But in a ton of those plays, what you saw was Vernon Adams moving up and back and forth in the pocket, side to side, finding the throwing angles. He has a confidence in his ability to move. And then he's so dialed in terms of the play and his accuracy to the receivers. That in itself, when I look at some of the problems with Calgary, we put up a lot of passing yards. We did a nice job. But I think what Vernon Adams is going to do is he's going to take some of your younger Canadians, your Phil Potts, Markham Michel's, even Reggie Bagleton, I think will be able to be used in a different way just by the fact that they're opening up some more underneath targets to allow for more of the deep balls to happen. I think he's just going to add an element to the Stampeder offense that we haven't seen since the good old days of 2017, 2018.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt he brings a legitimate stability to that quarterback position. Not only, like you said, he moves in and out of the pocket, he can make plays on the run. He's a playmaker. He's a quarterback, but he's also a playmaker. I mean, his nickname is Big Play VA for a reason. He's a playmaker. And I think the Stampeders, man, they struck gold today. Honestly, they struck gold. And it's going to be exciting. But Sheldon, you asked me a question. Is Vernon Adams happy to be there? I think so. This might be the first time that he's going to get to be the starter heading into the season, uncontested, no one over his shoulder, no one in an NFL camp that he has to worry about potentially coming back, like was the situation in BC. This is now he's been given the reins to the team. It's the first time in a long time. Obviously, he's got PJ Walker. We've talked about him in the past. PJ Walker with a lot of NFL gameplay behind him with Carolina. He was with most recently with Cleveland. He signed with the Stamps.
But as you know, that's not the most meaningful. Getting a guy from the NFL isn't always the smoothest transition.
No, and it's going to take a while for that guy to learn the game. So I think that Vernon Adams is in the driver's seat. But that being said, the flip side to this coin is Stampeders have a lot of work to do. I mean, we saw a Third Down Nation article last week where former players of the Stampeders gave the team a D-, and not just players. There was coaches quoted in this article. There was a lot going on in that article that gives pause for thought. And I'm not just talking about Kadeem Carey's comments after the Grey Cup, but some of the comments about the state of the franchise in comparison to others, how they deal with free agents, what they do, for as good as Vernon Adams is, you look at the receiving core he had in BC for the last few years. I mean, that's one of the top receiving cores in the CFL. And you mentioned some guys in the Stampeders locker room. You mentioned Reggie Bagleton. You mentioned Mark and Michelle. I mean, these are solid CFL players, solid guys, but I mean, they need more. They need more help for their offense. They need more help so VA can make those plays. And I don't think they're there yet. So there's a lot of work to do.
So let me ask you a question about that then. So it is an instant improvement. I think everybody can agree with that. But what you're talking about with the D- grade is the culture of the team and the things that are going on in here. Quick mention, the quarterback's coach is actually Vernon Adams, college coach from Eastern Washington that he played with his first couple of seasons. So I know there's a bit of trust and familiarity there. How big an impact will signing a guy be on the locker room culture? Was the culture that bad, or when you're going 5-13, does it just get bad? Like, are there still bigger problems to fix? What will the impact of one star player have? I know it's going to do for recruiting, but is it changing the way that Stampeders look at themselves day in and day out?
I don't think one player does. I think what we saw in the media last week really put some hard questions back to Stampeders management and coaches that they have to look in the mirror and answer as they move towards next season. You look at in that article, the Third Down Nation article, there was a quote from Ryan Dinwiddie, head coach, great Cup winning head coach of the Toronto Argonauts. And it was something to the extent, I can't really find it right here, but he was saying, when I needed a treadmill in Toronto, they bought me 4, and then you got guys talking about the Stampeders facilities as not being up to snuff with the rest of the league. And that's the thing, like you ended your career in Calgary. I played most of my career in Calgary. I only knew what I knew. I played 3 games with Saskatchewan afterwards, and I started my career in Edmonton. But what I knew from Calgary is what I knew. And I didn't test free agent waters. I didn't know if anything was better. Yeah, we got breakfast in the morning. I was very grateful that I got a couple of muffins and cornflakes and stuff. But then you hear stories, again, what some of these guys are saying is like, yeah, we had muffins and cornflakes in Calgary, but we go to Toronto and, we've got a full training table plus supplements plus, feeling they're treated like athletes. And again, I'm not complaining about what I had in Calgary, but if you got guys that know better, and now all of a sudden you got a team that's not winning and that's not paying, people aren't going to go.
You just feel like they're cheap and they don't care. And that's one of the things I think Vernon Adams is going to almost have to become an ambassador for the Calgary Stampeders. But I think that like Calgary Sports and Entertainment is going to have to take a hard look at, do they value the Stampeders brand, and is this something they want to build on? You talk about a warm breakfast versus cereal and bagels. A lot of these guys are coming from the NFL, but the truth is the NCAA, you're treated way better than you're ever treated in the CFL as well. It's not everything, but it is that culture when you feel like your team's investing in you. You go in there, you get there, you arrive 30 minutes earlier so that you have time for breakfast and to hang out with the guys, right? You're not getting guys running off to McDonald's between special teams meetings and film. And I think there's a long way for the Stamps to go, but I really do believe that this is a good start. And if I were if I were Stampeders management, I would be trumpeting this around the league and trying to get VA out there to bring in. I think Eugene Lewis or the Edmonton. I think they used to be teammates.
Yeah,
I'd be
Lucky
bringing
Whitehead and Winnipeg. Bring some familiar faces.
Yeah. Hopefully get some younger guys, as well. But the other thing that I found interesting, called a copycat league. The Stamps had also lost a lot of great coaches over the years, going to different organizations. Corey Mace, obviously, going off to Toronto, and then head coach of Saskatchewan.
Dinwiddie.
Craig Dickinson went off. Dinwiddie went off. They just fired Mark Killam, who hasn't resurfaced yet, but I'm going to be curious to see where he goes. But Corey Mace leaves Toronto to go to Saskatchewan. The Argonauts just hired Brent Monson as their defensive coordinator. And if you take a look, it is crazy because Toronto had.
Is that just announced today?
This just came out. Yeah, it's November 26th. I didn't see it this morning. I just
breaking news.
Yeah.
Brent Monson, Toronto defensive coordinator.
So there's still some culture things to be fixed in order to keep that talent and keep regenerating the talent, because they're not the Stampeders of old for sure, right? But
they're going to have to change. They're going to have to change how they treat their free agents, and that was also stated in the article. You got guys saying, well, listen, I played in my first career. I'm doing okay. And then all of a sudden the team says, well, we're not going to pay you. And then you got 5 other teams courting you. And when you're a young guy, you're not thinking about that legacy. And again, when the Stampeders were winning Grey Cups and guaranteed to go to Grey Cups, it was easier to say, hey, we're going to pay you a little bit less, but you're going to get that $17,000 check come November. But when you can't promise that, and the odds of that don't look good, and you're lowballing guys and they're getting offers that are way higher than what you're offering for this quote unquote hometown discount, guys aren't buying it. And so and
the guys are seeing these articles, and nobody wants to be that guy that goes in there after an article comes like that, because you look like you are a bottom feeder undervaluing yourself to go into a club that's struggling.
You know how it is. Guys look at the CFL salaries. You look what a guy's making, and you say, well, listen, I'm better than this guy, and I'm better than that guy. I might not be as good as that guy, but I definitely need to get paid more than that guy. And when you don't feel valued, it's not personal. It's always business. But then on the player's end, when someone offers them that money and then all of a sudden it looks like they have a chance to win a Grey Cup, and a couple of other guys are saying, hey, listen, man, come play with us. All your coaches are here. We're trending in the right direction. Well, shoot, you got to figure something out. And so the Stampeders got to look outward. And I think to tell you the truth, everything I've seen from Jay McNeil since he's taken over as the president of the Stampeders has been nothing but positive. Would I like to see a few more popular musical acts that they bring in for halftime show? For sure. But the fan experience for what he's given, they built a new section there this year. They're trying things, short of building a new stadium, which is pretty hard to do in this climate, especially since
in this city.
Especially since they're building a new hockey arena right now, and that's where the focus is. Let's be real. That's where the money is in the NHL team. It's not the Stampeders. But for what they have, I believe Jay McNeil is doing a great job with the mandate he's given. We got to put more people in the sense. But the same token, the only way to make that put more people in the stands is to have a better product on the field. And to do that, they got to not only improve the fan experience, they've got to improve the player experience. And that's where I think they need to do a lot of soul searching, because you know what? If there is an exodus of players and coaches, there's something there that needs to be corrected. And I do believe that Dave is a guy for the job. I do believe this move today was huge in helping change that culture, but it's going to take more than just one quarterback. When the Calgary Stampeders in 2004, how many games did you guys win under Matt Dunnigan?
Not many. I think we had the same season, like five wins.
Yeah,
it was
5
horrible.
wins.
It was horrible. But new ownership came in, which is a culture change. And I'm sorry, like BC's got amazing ownership.
Yeah.
And so Calgary's going to start duplicating that. But then when we brought Henry back,
Jermaine Copeland.
Signed Nick, signed some young guys.
Kenyon Rambo,
changed overnight.
Yeah, it changed overnight. And that's what the Stamps are going to need. They're going to need the quarterback is the start. They got to start pitching some guys out there, some big impact players. They're not stealing anyone off of BC's roster. It looks like all their receivers are locked up. So they're going to have to look to Eugene Lewis, Lucky Whitehead. Kenny Lawler looks like he's a free agent. I don't know what type of free agent, if they're going to let him. I don't think they'll let him go, but some guys are going to get paid, because for that quarterback to be successful, they need some deep threats. They need some guys that can go deep while he keeps the play alive. And I am looking forward to see what it's going to be. We said it last time. Things either get better or they get worse. They don't stay the same. And I think today the Stampeders did a great job on making things better for the on-field product and better for the fans. So there's a lot of hope. Sheldon, what do we say? We take a break. We'll take a break. For all of you that are still hanging out with us, thank you so much. We're The Ride with Chevy and Nasty, 10:30 every Tuesday night, Mountain Standard Time. We're brought to you by Performance Freight Management, We Drone Real Estate Media, and YYC Business. Again, please like and subscribe to all our channels at Chevy and Nasty. You can catch us, The Ride, on Spotify and Apple Podcasts tomorrow morning when Trey puts those up. Trey's doing a fantastic job producing the show. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to our Blitz with Chevy and Nasty.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Mortgages can be confusing, and every one of your dollars count. Atlas Mortgage Group will protect you and fight for the best possible rate. They're here for you. They're here to make the mortgage process simple, accessible, and effortless. With their strong relationships with major banks and lenders, they've done $50 million in funded mortgages. 10 brokers, 30 different lenders, over 1,000 happy clients. You can be next. Atlas Mortgage Group. atlasmortgagegroup.ca.
Now open inside Cowboys Casino in the heart of downtown Calgary. Welcome to Hitman's Bar. Come for the food, the drinks, and the ambiance. You may catch a glimpse of the excellence of execution himself. Perfect for any corporate party or gathering. Hitman's Bar, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Sheldon. Hey, Sheldon, you're back.
That ended a little quickly.
Well, we ran a bunch of commercials, and it is live television. And we're rocking and rolling through the ride tonight. We got a couple of segments left. Sheldon, let's hit it with the segment we said we're going to start with. Let's hit the Chevy and Nasty Blitz. Let's do it.
Time for the Chevy and Nasty Blitz.
And since this is live, I will confess that I lost my Blitz questions, but I got them from memory. Ashton Genty, running back for Boise State, has just had a ridiculous season this year, putting up over 1,000 yards with a game, or over 2,000 yards rushing with a game remaining. So that's a very select group of guys that did it. At the same time, you've got Travis Hunter with Colorado. Dude, this guy plays two ways in NCAA in the Big 12. He's got over 1,000 receiving yards, and he's already got 3 interceptions playing defensive back, and he's almost a sure thing to go in the first round of the NFL. Is he the best receiver In college? No. Is he the best defensive back in college? No. But he's something special. So this year, as they're working through the Heisman nomination process, who would your pick be for the Heisman? Do you go with a 2,000-yard running back or both sides of the ball, two-way guy that's been successful at both positions?
For me, Travis Hunter is I think he's leading in the odds. They got some Vegas odds on this. But for me, we've been talking about Genty all year. Trey's been pumping him up early on in the season. I mean, for the yards that Genty has, they've been sitting him for half the games. So let's take a look at Genty's performance. I want to look at Genty first. We'll take a look at him.
Genty, another huge hole, this time off the right side. He cuts it back. Genty eluding tacklers. Gets a block. He's got another touchdown. Boise State back on offense. Ashton Genty, breaks free. Has a player tracking him down. It's TJ Smith. Can he get to him? Genty, touchdown.
Going to keep it on the ground with Genty on 2nd and 10. Look at him bounce off tacklers. Genty with some room. Genty has the speed. You call it long speed. We call
I'm going to answer your question simply. For me, it's Genty. I love what he's been doing all year. Like I said, Trey's been putting him onto us early. Trey was feeding us stats for him. We've been wanting to have a talk about Genty forever. Why not now? When the Heisman's on the line. If I had a vote, I'm voting for that guy. I can't wait to see him in the NFL. When he goes to the NFL, we talk about Saquon Barkley all year and the crazy things he's doing. I think we're seeing the second coming of Barry Sanders here. Like, this is a special talent. I'm not saying Travis Hunter isn't a special talent. Like, what he's doing is great. But I do believe there's a hype machine around him with Colorado and Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders and the whole Colorado circus that's going on there. And they're doing some great things. I truly respect what they're doing. But I just think, Genty is playing one of the toughest positions to be as successful as he is. People are lining up and teams are scheming for him and they still can't stop him. And as we said, like, he sat for half the games that he played. When the games were out, he could have easily broken Barry Sanders' record if he didn't sit for all those games, right? So it's going to be close. I don't think he's going to get the record, but he definitely gets my Heisman vote. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's I'll tell you, I will say this. I played with Troy Davis at Iowa State when we had a 3-8 season. And Troy put together 2 back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons, and he lost the Heisman. I think it's a shame when you get somebody with that much talent. And I think he's that running back that you may go in the top 5 picks just because he's that special and he will have an impact on any team that he plays for. I hope you're right. I hope it goes to Genty for sure.
Yeah. So I'll take this one to the NFL. The Washington Commanders, formerly the Redskins, played the Dallas Cowboys this weekend in one of the craziest special teams games. Like, we had 2 kicks blocked. There was 5 kicks missed total, 2 return touchdowns, and then a touchdown on an onside kick. It was ridiculous. But at one point, the Commanders score an 89-yard touchdown. Trey, do we have the touchdown play here? I want to see that touchdown that set up the potential game-tying extra point. Do we have that? Let's see if we got it. Okay, let's play that then, Trey.
Tackle them in bounds. They're made to play in these styles. Now they can just unleash at the quarterback.
Half a minute, no timeouts. Daniels throws down the sideline for Terry McLaurin. McLaurin is loose. Lightning strikes twice in Washington.
All right, so here you are. 33 seconds left. Your rookie quarterback completes an 89-yard touchdown pass to McLovin. I know it's McLaurin, but I appreciate McLovin. You're going for the extra point to tie the game, potentially send it to overtime, right? Extra point to tie the game. Now, we've talked in the past couple of weeks about teams playing for the win and second-guessing that, but here's a coach that says, you know what? I'm putting the game on my kicker's trusty foot, Sheldon. He's going to kick an extra point, and we're going to win in overtime. Now, I want you to see what happened next on the extra point after that wonderful play.
Seibert's got to have butterflies here for the tie. Low snap. It is no good. And the worst special teams day in history has a fitting finish.
I'm not even sure what we just watched. The improbability of all of this happening for this finish to be possible, but it starts with a bad snap. It's low. Wade does a good job getting it down, and
Austin Seibert had not missed an extra point all year. He misses 2 today. And all the twists and the turns of this game end with this.
Unbelievable. Yeah, Seibert was something like 26 of 28 going into this game. I missed a couple of games with a hip injury.
Yeah.
But
So-
I mean, he's Mr. Consistent.
Yeah.
But I love that you bring this up. Okay,
Wait,
go
but
ahead.
my
Go ahead,
question, I
ask.
got to give you,
Yeah,
I got to give you my question.
Okay.
So we saw that there was a low snap. The snap landed flat on the holder's grounds. The holder did a fantastic job putting it up, laces out. Seibert kicks it wide left. Who are you putting this on? Are you putting this on the long snapper, or are you putting it on the kicker? Because the ball was still kickable. Who would you put this one on?
Dude, I've never been in the position of a kicker before, but I could imagine the most pressure was on the holder, seeing that ball bouncing at his feet. He did a masterful job of placing that. For a kicker, I think you have to just go forward and assume it's going to be okay. I think if you start thinking about what's happening, you change your mechanics. I think you got to just kick like you always kick. But my question to you, Chev, would throw one back to you. A long snapper, like, yeah, it's hard, but it's not that hard. You do it. He's done 7 that game, and they were all perfect. I know. I watched the highlights of it afterwards. What goes through a long snapper's mind to miss that one time? It's hard to miss like that, isn't it?
Well, you know what? It's all mental at that point, right? You're probably telling yourself if there's nerves.
It's the NFL.
Yeah,
It's
I know,
the
but you know what?
I
still
played
got
boundary.
nerves.
I played boundary end on the weak side of that field goal formation, the short side that they come into block. And I know how hard that was when you've got a guy that's just foaming at the mouth and you got to protect inside, help outside, and you get split. I was on my ass probably 30% of the time I was in there because you're the guy they're trying to exploit. You got to be perfect, and you know you're going to get hit. Long snappers don't even get hit anymore.
Yeah, and that is one thing that I can't relate to, because when I was in there, I played on a Monday Night Football. I was with the Dallas Cowboys against the Washington Redskins in the time. We had to kick for a game-winning field goal, and I had 2 350-pound guys lined up on me with pushers in the back. And, you know, pushers, you can't do that anymore either. And I was like, man, these guys wanted to kill me, and they were telling me they were going to kill me. And in my head, you got to take a deep breath, tell yourself, deliver a good snap, and then don't worry what happens afterwards, because the snap is done. And but when you're executing a close skill with that amount of perfection and that amount of stakes on the line, all kinds of negative thoughts can creep in. And, you know, unfortunately, that long snapper put it low. Like you said, the holder did a masterful job, but kickers at that level should be able to kick that kick from that distance, even with a bit of a stutter. I've seen Rene Paredes do that often. I've seen guys in the CFL do that often. Just put it down, kick it, you know. But in this case, I don't like, yeah. So who did you blame? Because that's my question to you. I want to know who you blame.
You know, kickers and long snappers just blow my mind, dude. Like there's, you know, I do know this. The kicker's got to take the responsibility at the end of the day, because you need to deliver on that kick. It's a PAT. Just kick it straight. Can't be that hard. But you know, I don't know. I just feel for everybody out there on that offense, everybody in the stands, the play of the year to get them down there. I think the happiest guy in the whole field were the strong safety and cornerback that blew the coverage and let the guy run through the middle, miss a tackle, and let him go the distance. Yeah. Dallas dodged a big one.
Dallas dodged a bullet, and also on the next ensuing onside kick, they returned that onside kick for a touchdown. So all's good in Dallas. He saved a little face. They're not having a great season. The Commanders are having a fantastic season. That's definitely a blip. That was probably one of the worst special teams games ever. Sheldon, let's move on. We'll go through this one quick. The Bengals are not having a great season. I believe they're looking for anything that could change their season around. And coming off a bye week, Coach Zach Taylor decides we are going to put the ping pong tables back in the locker room, change the camaraderie, get people competing again. Sheldon, do you think the ping pong tables will be the catalyst for a turnaround in the Bengals season? Because they need to go on a 6-game winning streak to get their playoff hopes at a 94%, because right now they have a 12% chance of making the playoffs. They need this ping pong thing to work. Do you think it can work for the Bengals?
If the players believe that the club is buying into them again, yeah, things like this do make a difference. The ping pong tables themselves won't fix it, but we talked about it with Montreal when they came in there and started an intramural league and got the guys interacting midway through the season. We talked about the Halo Club. Chev, I'm not lying. My favorite part of my 8-year-long CFL career was the Halo Club. I loved that stuff. And I loved the guys I played with. I loved interacting with them on when we did it. Yeah, little things like this make a difference. But week 13, week 12, week 13, I don't know. It's not going to hurt, but this is a character move for the long term. And they better follow up with some better freaking breakfast for the players at the clubhouse.
Well, I saw this tweet, and it was from Dan Steinberg of CBS Sports, and he says, life is a never-ending succession of NFL teams adding ping pong tables with stories about how they finally coming together as a family and enjoying each other's company, and NFL teams removing ping pong tables with stories about how they're finally taking football seriously. And isn't that the cycle of sport? You got the slave driver coach. Well, then you need the good guy coach. Good guy coach gets tired, you get the slave driver in. Ping pong tables. Nope. Even Denny Crean took away our Halo Club at one point. You remember when things
he tried? He sure did.
He tried. He's like, I don't want you guys playing Halo. So we're like, okay, well then I guess we'll just go home and play Halo. At least we stuck around. At least we stuck around in the locker room, watched a bit of film, and played Halo. Now we're just gonna go home and play Halo. So yeah, no, absolutely, I can affect the team chemistry, but I don't know if this is the answer to the Bengals woes. Seems a little deeper than ping pong. Sheldon, last one's yours.
Okay, again, my notes are gone, so I'm pulling this one out of the air. But Boston Bruins, very good team, strong seasons last 2 years, but fell short in the playoffs. This year, bit of a slow start. Not terrible. They're 10-3. And this week they fire head coach Jeremy Swayman.
Not Swayman. Montgomery.
Montgomery. Sorry, yeah. See, I'll tell you, I'm going off the top of my head here trying to read old notes. Is this going to be the answer to like 10-3 and you're firing the head coach, and Montgomery gets picked up the very next day by St. Louis?
Yeah,
was there a problem in Boston? What problem were they trying to solve? And is this the answer?
Yeah, no. Well, I don't think Montgomery was the problem, because clearly he was highly regarded, because most coaches, when they get fired, they usually sit out, collect their guaranteed check, and wait for another opportunity to come. His came the very next day in St. Louis. They give him a 5-year deal. They want him to be part of their plan for the future. So this guy's a highly regarded coach. I think the problem goes back to a lot of the stuff we've been talking about all episode today is leadership. When the Boston Bruins played the Jeremy Swayman goaltending contract out in the media, I think they caused a rift in the locker room. They lost a number of key vets, Patrice Bergeron being one of them, who retired. Maybe a guy who could have kept the locker room together. And I think the problems are deeper than the head coach. You've got Cam Neely, the president of hockey ops, and Don Sweeney, the GM. I think the old boys club, old Boston Bruins guys, they're going to be loyal to each other. They know they messed up, but they're not firing each other. They got rid of the head coach. I think this thing gets worse before it gets any better. But for Coach Montgomery, it got better in a hurry. He got rewarded with a 5-year deal, and getting a fresh start with the team that just cleared the way for him. So yeah, Boston, we talk about chemistry, talk about when leadership fails the organization. I think you saw it this summer in how they handled their goaltender. And I think there's a rift there. It doesn't matter how much you paid him after the fact. It's how you embarrassed him publicly, and especially goaltenders, right? You talked about kickers in the last question. Goaltenders are the kickers of hockey, right? Like you mess with their heads and they're not the same.
Yeah, that's it. And he's been struggling. They're not terrible, but they are struggling, and there are changes being made. I don't know. For me, I looked going into this, and just really quickly, I didn't see a problem in Boston. I saw them as a club that was playing some great hockey. There was an issue. Maybe, I mean, this Kurt Panio, one of our listeners, a big Bruins fan. Is it the chemistry of the team, of the locker room, that falls apart in the playoffs the last couple of years, or are they just a team on the rise? But yeah, this one surprised me. 10-10-3, Chev. You don't lose your job at 10-10-3 in November.
No, but he did, and he just got a new job. So I'm not sad for Montgomery, because obviously he is not the issue. AC Sports, thanks for joining us. Goaltenders do get the yips. Goaltenders can get the yips, but I really don't think this is a case of the yips. I think this is a case of a guy that was insulted. If any of you have seen the Face Off series on Prime, there is one episode on Jeremy Swayman. I guess it was the one that featured him versus the Florida Panthers and Kachuk. And I thought they did a really good job about portraying this guy as just like this nice kid from Alaska. His dad's a sports performance coach or a doctor, something like that, like very involved. Like, he's not a diva kind of guy. He's not and I think he looks like a guy who had his feelings hurt. And yeah, he's got $80 million or whatever his contract was. But before you get that money, you're still the same person you are. And I think that locker room's divided. And a lot of the players saw that. When, again, we talked about it with what players said about the Stampeders when they left. There's a lot of things they didn't like about how they were being handled. Now, you're not hearing it from other Boston players, but who knows? Yeah. In a year or two, maybe some guys that leave Boston say, you know what? That was the beginning of the end. Who knows, right? In the offseason, they brought in Nikita Zadorov and Elias Lindholm, two former Flames. We're very familiar with those guys. Those guys are on their second team since leaving the Flames, right? So are those guys the answer? I don't think so. I think the problem is with the leadership. I think there's a rift in the locker room between players and management, and it doesn't look like it's going to heal anytime soon. And other teams are going to pass them. It's a high-performance business, whether it's football, hockey, soccer, basketball, baseball. It's a high-performance business. And when you're not performing at the highest level and other teams are, you're going to get left behind in a hurry. And right now, the Bruins are going to be left behind, and their former coach Montgomery is at least in the driver's seat somewhere else. So,
all right. Well, we're going to take a quick break now. We're going to take a break here, go to commercial, and thank our sponsors. But when we come back, Chevy and Nasty's studs and duds, and a little bit more on Trey's upcoming road trip right here on The Ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Mortgages can be confusing, and every one of your dollars count. Atlas Mortgage Group will protect you and fight for the best possible rate. They're here for you. They're here to make the mortgage process simple, accessible, and effortless. With their strong relationships with major banks and lenders, they've done $50 million in funded mortgages. 10 brokers, 30 different lenders, over 1,000 happy clients. You can be next. Atlas Mortgage Group, atlasmortgagegroup.ca.
Now open inside Cowboys Casino in the heart of downtown Calgary. Welcome to Hitman's Bar. Come for the food, the drinks, and the ambiance. You may catch a glimpse of the excellence of execution himself. Perfect for any corporate party or gathering. Hitman's Bar, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be.
Sheldon?
Made it back on time this time.
Yeah, we did. And it's I guess it's the fourth segment. Chevy and Nasty, The Ride, brought to you by Performance Freight Management, We Drone Real Estate Media, and YYC Business. Nasty, where do you want to go right now?
Well, I think we could just jump. Do you want to just jump right into our studs and duds? We want to start with Trey. Like, Trey's got an awesome road. And of course, folks, Chevy wins, and we are in overtime.
Well, I didn't win. We just talked a lot about the Stampeders, and all of a sudden I was like, "Oh, wait a second, we talked about the Stampeders." Let's bring Trey in. Trey, jump on air, and then we'll hit the studs and duds. Because I want to see your face, Trey. Oh, there he is.
What's going on?
Not much.
How's it going?
So tell us a little bit, because I didn't find out till I think yesterday when you put in the text line. You're heading off to Vancouver. Tell us a little bit about this trip, and is this something that you do often?
Yeah, so my girlfriend's originally from Vancouver, and so they announced that Survivor Series was going to be in Vancouver a couple months ago, I think over the summer, and me and Tamara were thinking about going to like one of these WWE pay-per-view events, because we've been to the SmackDown that was in Calgary last year and the Raw that was in Calgary this past September, and so we were like, well, we want to go somewhere, but there's not really anywhere close. And sure enough, like a week later, they announced that there's going to be one in Vancouver, and so got our tickets the day they went on sale. We talked to her grandparents, and they're going to accommodate us for the weekend, and yeah, we're pretty excited. It's the first time I've gone to like a pay-per-view event, so a little bit different than the regular TV ones. It's just all matches, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun.
So what are the differences with what are the differences with the pay-per-view events? Are there going to be more pyrotechnics and explosives? Is it are you expecting there to be a different vibe than just going to your local match?
Yeah, I think there will be a bit of a difference, just because it like the pay-per-views are only all matches usually. Like there might be like one or two like backstage things that they do, but for the most part it's just all matches, and all the Raws and SmackDowns leading up have led to this moment, and so they just do the match instead of having the in-ring promos or whatever. And so like this time, this weekend, they have a War Games match. They have a men's and a women's War Game match, and so there's 5 on each team, and they go into the double ring, so they have 2 rings. Even for like the 1v1 matches, they're still in 2 rings, and they lower the cage down, and then it's like a free-for-all. They have tables and chairs and ladders, and usually they have a couple other gimmicks up their sleeve that you've never seen before, and they just beat the hell out of each other. And yeah, it should be a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. And I can't wait to see like these guys trapped in a cage and beat the hell out of each other.
And do they still pick their teams? Like the original Survivor Series, I believe was 1987, and I think it was Hulk Hogan's pick the team versus would it be Andre the Giant? And I'm looking at some of the names here. Yeah, like Hulk Hogan chose a team of Don Morocco. If you wouldn't know him, Trey. Paul Orndorff, Ken Patera. You know who Bam Bam Bigelow is. Everyone knows Bam Bam Bigelow. And then Andre the Giant had Butch Reed, King Kong Bundy, Ravishing Rick Rude, and the one-man gang, who also was Hakeem, another very famous wrestler. But yeah, they had teams, and everyone drafted teams. And I believe like Macho Man had a team, and he was fighting against Tito Santana had a team, I believe, in those days. Is that how it works now, or has it evolved over time?
No, it's definitely evolved over time. I think they got rid of the War Games matches. Like that was just a thing for a few years, and they brought them back like 3 or 4 years ago, and so they kind of just revolve it around storylines. And so, I mean, this one's just revolved around. I think what they're trying to do is have The Rock and Roman Reigns, because they have like the Samoan bloodlines, and they want to have that accumulation at WrestleMania this year. And so they have like 2 Samoan teams basically in the main event in the War Games match. And so I wouldn't say that they draft a team, but like over the weeks of watching the weekly television, you kind of get an idea of who's going to be on whose team. And then like this past Monday, like yesterday, they announced the final team, and on Friday they'll announce like the final women's team as well. And then Saturday everybody goes.
So you're big into this then. You're following this every weekend. You're watching and all these things. Oh, that's awesome. I remember some of my happiest times in my life was watching the old Royal Rumbles or Survivor Series, and it was so exciting. I just haven't followed the storylines anymore, or I just can't follow them anymore like I used to. But I'm actually kind of getting pumped up for that, because that would be awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be sweet, and this is like the final one before the Royal Rumble too, so there's a bit of a lull. So they've kind of like been building up for a while now on these matches, and so I'm so pumped. Like this is like one of their staple events, and it's just gonna be great.
So who is Trey Smith looking most forward to seeing live in action of the wrestlers that are on the bill in Vancouver? Because I know there's no Canadians on the bill. We talked about that. They're leaving a lot of the Canadians out. Like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, but who are you looking forward to most seeing?
Well, I was pretty devastated on yesterday. I think you guys have talked about this before, when Cody Rhodes is now the champion, and he was kind of having a thing with Kevin Owens, and I have yet to see Cody Rhodes over 2 like TV shows in Calgary. I've been to the Dome twice and haven't seen him once. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll finally get to see him at Vancouver. And then they announced yesterday that he wasn't going to be in Vancouver, so that kind of crushed me a little bit. But that being said, I am a very big CM Punk fan. I like CM Punk. He's the voice of the voiceless, and he's kind of OG, and he's got some gray hairs now, but he's still got it. And I'm looking forward to seeing him live, because I've yet to see him live too, so that should be fun.
Well, I'll tell you, I went last year around Christmas time. I was in Montreal, and I actually wound up at a WWE event with my brother, and saw a lot of those guys. And yeah, they do such a great production. I hadn't been to wrestling. I think I went once before. Actually, Bret Hart had me and my kids over to the wrestling event. That's how I had those shades that I showed you guys a couple of weeks ago. And before that, I mean, I was a big wrestling fan in college. As you guys know, I almost left college for wrestling. But yeah, same like Sheldon. When I got more and more serious about football and started really following football, I stopped following wrestling. Something had to give. And, I looked at some of the top 10 Survivor Series matches since the inception. And like number 10 on the list is the one I referenced with Hogan versus Andre and the 2 teams. After that, I mean, it's people that it's situations I don't recognize, like WWE, SmackDown versus Raw, the Alliance versus Raw, like some of the best matches I have never even heard of. And it almost makes me want to go back and watch, because I have kind of flirted with wrestling the last year and a bit since The Rock came back and had his feud with Cody Rhodes. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, how do you get back in? Like I used to collect comic books, and I loved comic books, but then I stopped, and I don't know what's going on in Superman or Batman. And how do I just jump back in if I don't know the whole backstory? Like I missed the whole era of John Cena and Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, more than just being a silent guy in D-Generation X. Like I missed all of that. And it's like, well, is it too late to go back is the question.
I don't think so. I mean, when I was growing up, I was never really that big of a wrestling fan, and my dad always was, and so he would always have like the Monday Night Raw and the SmackDown, and I sit down and whatever and watch a little bit of it. I'm like, oh, this is pretty interesting actually. And then just like got more and more into it, and then eventually I was like, you know what, this is just going to be one of my hobbies now, and I enjoy the storylines, I mean, I'm sure the Cody Rhodes and the Roman Reigns are your guys' Bret Harts and Hulk Hogan's, and so it's the same.
Warrior.
Yeah, exactly. Like the guys are still the same, and they still have the baby faces and the heels that are known around the world. And I think with this move to Netflix too, that they're going to go to in January, is going to really help them. And I think they're going to take their production to another level. I think they're going to try and get out there, like try and spread it across all the sports. Like I saw that they posted on Sports Center for the first time in like 10 years or something just this past weekend. And so I think they're just going to keep trying to get celebrities into it as well. They keep getting like Travis Scott, and I saw like Vanessa Hudgens was at Raw last night too. They're trying to get a lot of people into it. And so I think everybody can be a part of it for sure. You're never too late to get into it. And, you know, if you need some matches or something to get back into it, I'd be more than happy to help you, Randy. I'm a nerd for that stuff. So
and I was gonna bring that up because the Netflix thing is huge. We talked about the Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight a few weeks ago, and in talking about that, I think I mentioned, you know, growing up, you paid $60 for boxing pay-per-view to see the main event last 45 seconds, you know, and everyone feels like they wasted their money. Whenever you used to watch wrestling, you know you were going to get a show. It might not end the way you hoped it would end. You know, the babyface would lose when you wanted him to win, or the heel would lose when you wanted the babyface to win, or something like that. But it was always guaranteed spectacle. And then you'd always have that Monday Night Raw to follow up with the aftermath. Never forget, we talked about the Montreal screw job, and then the following Raw the night later, when you knew Bret Hart quit the WWE, and D-Generation X says that they brought Bret Hart back, and instead of Bret Hart, it's like a little person dressed up as Bret Hart, and it was just always spectacle. And I kind of missed that. I'm looking forward to the Netflix thing because I am a bit cheap, so I won't get cable and I won't get the WWE Network, but I already have Netflix, so I think I could get into it with that. And obviously our ties to the Hitman the last few weeks, talking some wrestling, has really kind of got me pumped up. So I'm looking forward to your post Survivor Series report. You should do like a live report that we could play next week, like just to shoot a couple of videos of some key moments so we could throw it on the air next week, because I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I think we're going to have a good time. I'll probably going to splurge on way too many shirts, because that's probably all I wear for t-shirts now is wrestling shirts, and take a couple videos, and yeah, I'll be happy to report back.
Wait till you see my ugly Christmas sweater. Yeah, it's coming out the top, coming to the top of the drawer. Yeah, the ugly Christmas sweater. Oh yeah, the kingdom of the madness. It's gonna explode with color and flair and pizzazz. Spice up your holiday season. You don't need a reason. Yeah, take it.
Trey, thanks for filling us in. And honestly, I can't wait to see it, because I think over the Christmas holidays, this is something that I do want to throw myself back into. Not only that, I want to introduce my boys into something that's just stupid and fun. And I don't know, pure, maybe it's not pure, but it is certainly entertaining. So Trey, have an amazing trip, brother. And I can't wait to see what you got when you come back.
Yeah, I can't wait. It should be fun. The only thing I want to add too is I've never seen a pay-per-view at like 2 p.m. They're opening the doors at like 1 on Saturday, and the show starting at like 2 or 2:30. I don't know. I just always thought that like pay-per-views are always supposed to be at night, and they changed the times like last week. So I don't know if that's going to be weird or not. We're going to go for like a brunch date before, I think, me and my girlfriend, instead of a dinner date, which might be different. But anyways, yeah, it should be fun. I can't wait.
You could go watch a hockey game right after. So
that's a good idea. Yeah, go see the Canucks.
Maybe.
Right on. Trey, can't wait to follow up and hear how that went. But I'm going to let you go now, because now you got to play a couple little more segment things for us. So Trey, thanks for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me on, boys.
Now we're going to test Trey. See how quickly he can get off there and transition to our studs and duds. Chevy, are you ready for studs and duds?
Yeah, I'm ready for studs and duds. I'm absolutely ready.
Studs and duds.
That was great.
That was great. Good job, Trey. Chev, this week, my stud, Biz Nasty, Paul Bissonnette. He's hanging out in Scottsdale, Arizona at his favorite little steakhouse called Houston's. He goes there as often as he can. He's there at times, multiple times per month. And as he's sitting at his table and just enjoying himself with his friends, there's a group of 5, 7, 8, 9 middle-aged guys in golf shirts, some bald, all of them 50 plus, that walk in and they have attitudes. They were asked that they not drink in this certain part. There was a waiting area where they say our policy is you can't sit here and drink and socialize. They start getting nasty with the wait staff. They start pushing and getting verbally aggressive. They start pointing fingers and pushing guys back against the bar. And Paul Bissonnette's sitting there. He's like, I can't abide by this. Somebody got to step in here and help him. Nobody else is doing it. I'm going to step in. So he did. He stepped in. He pulled the guy's arm down and said, guys, if you have a problem, maybe you should take this outside. And before he got it out of his mouth, he starts receiving a flurry of blows.
Yeah.
That Biz Nasty inside the bar starts swinging. It goes outside for the next 3 to 4 minutes. It's pandemonium. It's him allegedly, like one of the assistant managers and managers helped him out, but it goes in the streets. There's a brawl. He's beaten, bloodied, bruised. As he says, I gave some, I took some, but at the end of the day, he stood strong. He stood up for wait staff getting paid minimum wage plus tips. And the police came in and cleaned up the guys. Dude, for me, this is my 100% absolute stud of the week, because these are the things that we used to think about when we were kids. Some of us have been in that situation. I've stood up for wait staff at a bar before. I've stood up for people that were getting bullied in bars before. You talked about how you don't like injustice. I don't like groups teaming up on individuals.
Yeah.
There's something about that really bothered me. And I haven't been in a fight for years, but I do remember my last one was in Regina, and it felt good to stand up for it. Different time and age. He came out and gave a play-by-play, blow-by-blow. Just Google it, folks. You're going to see him talk about it on his podcast, I'm sure. And he's got some other shorts out there. But I actually felt really good to know that there's still people that are willing to put themselves in harm's way, even though the odds are against them, to make sure that those men and women working in a restaurant being harassed and assaulted are going to walk out of there okay.
Yeah, and I think it's great for those people to know that there's people willing to step up for them, because servers, they're not making a ton of money. They're working for tips, and there's no excuse to act like a fool when you go to a bar and act like an idiot. And I've been there. I was a bouncer, like, me, my story. I was stabbed in a situation just like that. So when I think about that situation, I know that, and probably Bissonnette didn't realize just how dangerous it could have been. Like, you don't know who those guys are, right?
You don't think about that at the time, though.
No, you don't.
You really don't, right? Like, I think what happens is you see it, you see red because of the injustice, and you know that you're the one that has to step in there. But it could have ended badly when the guy runs back to his truck. You don't know what he's coming back.
Truck, grabs a gun, grabs a knife, and so I'm just glad he's okay. I'm glad he stood up, because I'm the same type of person. I would stand up for someone. It sure is a dangerous day and age out there where you don't know what's coming your way when you step in. But it is sure nice, and you hope that when one person steps in, more people step in to do the right thing. But yeah, definitely. That was an Old West type of brawl. I do like, if you go online and you find the clip, the one thing he mentioned, he said, the guy that threw that first punch in the bar, at one point, he beelined it towards me, and I got up and I cold clocked him and dropped him cold. He's like, you know what? I took a few, like you said, he took a couple of kicks to the head and the neck, but he got the one shot on the guy that needed it the most. And sometimes that's all that matters. The police charged a bunch of them. He said it. He said he would drop all charges against those guys if he could go behind the shed right now and go one-on-one versus each one of those guys. He also said he wants to get the names, because I will wreck their lives. Now, that's probably the adrenaline after the fight, because I think he came on pretty quickly afterwards. Yeah. But that's everybody's fantasy, to watch somebody get their comeuppance, watch somebody get their due, because there's no reason for a bunch of guys on a golf trip to Scottsdale, Arizona, to take that kind of position and that kind of posture in a bar. I mean, I don't know. To me, he probably got in trouble by, I don't know if I'd go out there and it would say exactly what I did. Yeah, I hit the guy in the mouth. Like, you're setting yourself up for some liability, but I love the honesty of it. I love the fact that he stood up in a tough situation and did the right thing for the right reason. Yeah, and he's probably eating for free for the rest of his life at Houston. So good for the Biz. He stood up for the little guy. I think many of us would do that. I know I've been in that situation several times and I've had to. Like I said, I only got stabbed once, but it hasn't prevented me from standing up for the little guy again. But we'll move on. My stud of the week is Second Cup Coffee Corporation. This week, I talked earlier about just how upset I was about Justin Trudeau and his lack of leadership and what's going on in the country now, especially in the wake of these protests. Whatever side you believe in, war is going to be ugly. War is going to be ugly. It's going to be nasty. But what's going on in Canada right now with protesters burning Canadian flags, shouting death to Canada, all kinds of mayhem. And again, I was not someone that was pro trucker convoy a few years ago. I just kind of, I think that was something that didn't need to happen because whatever my reasons were. But that being said, we declared a state of emergency in that situation. We got people protesting all over Canada, literally threatening people's lives, whether you figure it's literal or figurative. It's an ideology that's anti-Canada, what's going on right now. And one person in one of those protests, I can't even remember. I know her name is out there somewhere, but basically she got caught on camera doing the Heil Hitler salute. She got talking about the final solution for Jewish people. And like I said, this is not a statement
Final
on the
solution,
conflict. Yeah, this is a statement on people being terrible human beings. And this lady was a terrible human being. And it just so happened that she owned a Second Cup franchise, I believe 2 of them, in the Montreal Jewish General Hospital.
Yeah.
In the Jewish, and Second Cup immediately revoked her franchise from under her. I love it. I absolutely love that move because you know what? You act like such a turd. Okay,
Yeah.
You deserve anything that's coming to you. She probably deserves worse, in my opinion. But just the justice of Second Cup stepping up, saying that this is what we're going to do. I'm absolutely for that. I think it's a stud move. It stands up for rights, and in my opinion, for what Canada stands for. We don't tolerate that crap. We don't tolerate that.
But here, can I step in on this? Because
Go ahead.
We've just witnessed for the last year, we've witnessed Justin Trudeau and Melanie Jolie come out there and try to play both sides, the find people on both sides thing.
No.
And they would not take a stand. And that's what brewed this. I look at a corporation like Second Cup, and they're only going to lose in this situation in terms of, because there's probably other franchise owners that feel the same way. There's probably a lot of patrons in Toronto and Montreal and your large inner cities that feel the same way. They came out and made an immediate statement, took an immediate stance on it. And for me, that was refreshing. They took a moral standpoint rather than a corporate standpoint of fear of losing out on some customers and dollars. I really respect it. Great call.
And I don't know if it was as much a moral standpoint in terms of supporting one side versus the other.
No,
but they definitely said, we do not support hate. We do not support
that's moral
threats. Yeah, I guess it is. Yeah. And I loved it. I love what they did. I think it was great. I went today to Second Cup. I had a pumpkin spice brew, so no added sugar. It was just their brewed coffee. Pumpkin, man, it was fantastic. In fact, anytime I go to Second Cup, I am always so impressed with their brewed coffee. The only other bought brewed coffee that I like more than Second Cup is the McDonald's cup. I love McDonald's coffee, followed third by Tim Hortons dark roast. But right now, Second Cup has jumped to the top of the list. They're harder to find these days. Like, you don't find them as much, but whenever I see a Second Cup, not just because of this, but because of this, I'll go more. But lately they've impressed me with their coffee, and they impressed me with their stance and their leadership. You talk about leadership. Leadership is making decisions that may prove to be unpopular in tough times, but you do them with the courage of your convictions, and you don't try and do, like you mentioned, Jolie and Trudeau trying to play every side so that they can win everyone's votes. You make some tough decisions. You pull your pants up and you live with the consequences. I love that about Second Cup. And you said the greatest pun before. You said this has been brewing since before, and I thought, hey, that was pretty sharp. Let's go with the duds.
Oh, my dad, Chev, this one's been bugging me for a while, but this is the first time I have some tangible evidence behind it. Bike lanes, Chevy. I can't stand bike lanes. I used to work downtown. Now I drive downtown, and it's always confusing. I'm taking weird rights and lefts and looking out for people. The good news is there's almost never anybody driving in a bike lane in Calgary. However, this weekend in Toronto, the Utah Hockey Club was visiting the Toronto Maple Leafs and making the trip from the hotel to the arena, Scotiabank Arena. It's all timed out. You're going to get there so you have time to relax, change, get some tape on, and go to your first meeting. Well, their first meeting was at 5:15, but traffic in Toronto was so bad, Chev, it was so gridlocked that at one point they had to actually make the decision to say, guys, we're not making it to the game tonight. We got to get out of this bus and we're going to walk it. So the entire Utah Hockey Club got out, walked it to the building. Now, was it all about bike lanes? No, it wasn't. There was a Santa Claus parade earlier in the day, but Doug Ford came out the next day promoting his new bill, saying that no longer in Ontario can you shut down a driving lane for a bike lane without getting the provincial approval first. I know it's not popular. I know a lot of you guys like to bike around town too. Bikes are great, but if you take away car lanes and you leave congestion, so cars are sitting there idling in peak hours of the day, loss of production, salesmen are late making their meetings and deliveries. Guys, bike lanes are out of control. I think these are one of those things we have to rethink. Yeah, there's a place for them, but once you start holding up NHL hockey games, you got to rethink.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you in a sense, and it's funny because I'm a city employee, so I can't say too much because our city encourages bike lanes, and I don't want to get fired. But I will say I came back from Red Deer the other day, and I thought it snowed a lot in Red Deer until I showed up here. Holy crap, we got a lot of snow! And when I pulled into Silver Springs, the neighborhood where I live, you go on any side street. I mean, it's like Snowmageddon. If you don't have winter tires, which I have mine now after my accident a few weeks ago, if you don't have winter tires, you are not getting through. Yet when I pulled down the street, down the main strip of Silver Springs Boulevard, they installed a bike lane a couple of years ago. Well, that thing is cleaner than my beard right now. And I'm like, holy and again, I get it, but I was talking with my girlfriend today, biking in the winter is a luxury. It's for the haves. It's not on every person's thing. It's not like we live in Norway where everyone has a pair of skis and goes skiing home. And I think that might be a stereotype where they go skating.
Did you say everybody in Norway goes skiing home from work? Is that what I just heard?
I think so.
That might be a bit of a stereotype.
Bit of a stereotype. But what I'm saying is to have a bike that operates in the winter, even on a cleared bike lane in the middle of winter, you have to have a bike that has a significant amount of upgrades on it. And people aren't putting that type of money into a winter bike unless they have money. Now, I have a lot of firefighter buddies that they are outdoorsmen. Like firefighters are notoriously outdoorsmen. They, in the summer, they're mountain bikers, rock climbers, hikers, you name it. And in the winter, they ride their fat tire bikes to work. And I get it. There's people that pursue that as a hobby. But that would be like shutting down the skies to air traffic so that the drone pilots can be allowed to do their droning in the winter. Like, you don't do that, right? And so for me, I'm okay with bike lanes in the summer, but if you're going to pay a guy $50 an hour, his union fee, to drive in a little tractor down a path from the top of Nose Hill all the way down to the Bow River where you can join into the bike paths and probably shovel all the bike paths along the river, you could pay that guy $50 to get it into a Caterpillar and clear the small roads. So the fire trucks can get through, the cars without snow tires can get through, and even the buses can get through. That's kind of an opinion of mine. But biking in the winter is a luxury in the city. And I think it's crazy too. Cause
even in the summertime, there's not that many bikes downtown. Like, I agree that bikes are important and I think there should be room for it, but let's face it, even downtown, you've got from this block to this block, there's 37 vehicles driving, and you might see 0.6 bikes. Every couple of blocks, you might see one. Some days you see less. And so I think we just got to get back to common sense. If we could rebuild our city from scratch, Chev, so that you had an extra 9 feet to put a bike lane, great. but to take away bike lanes and to make these poor, underpaid Utah NHL hockey players walk to the stadium on a game night, I think it's just wrong.
Yeah,
What do
and you know what? Well, I was going to say that them walking there in Toronto actually reminded me of 2003 when there's the Great Eastern Blackout, and we had a game on a Thursday night in Toronto, and there was a huge Eastern Seaboard blackout from northern Ontario all the way down into New York, and I remember our team was leaving the hotel to take the bus to the Sky Dome. At the time, it was called the Sky Dome, and the entire world shut down. And I was already in the stadium when it happened, but yeah, same kind of story. Guys had to get out of the bus, walk to the stadium. Now our game was postponed to the Sunday. I think it was a Thursday we were supposed to play, and we wind up playing on the Sunday, and we were all stuck in Toronto for a few days. But yeah, I've been there and done that too, where you're stuck in Toronto and you have to get off the bus and walk. And I guess Utah guys got a taste of the big city and the bike lanes. My dud of the week is going to be Baker Mayfield's dad and brother, basically defrauding the guy of $12 million. And he's suing his dad and his brother's investment firm. Now, I might have a brother that owes me $20, but $12 million, holy crap. Like, we've seen celebrities get taken by their family members before. Everyone talks about Britney Spears, and you talk about some of the other celebrities. Macaulay Culkin got taken by his folks, I believe, back in the day. But geez, this is a guy that's currently playing the NFL. We see him every Sunday. It's like, how can this happen? And it's like, how can this happen? And how can a family stoop so low to defraud their own brother, who's the one making all the money? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's the entitlement. I read a little bit on that. Like, I don't know the whole story, to be honest with you, but I saw something about where they started up. His problem was they started up a company, like a management company that was funneling the money out that he didn't have a share in. So it was legitimately taking his proceeds and transferring it to themselves without him being a part of the number company. Yeah, that's a weird one to me. Like, that really is. I could see, okay, you know what? It goes down the family. Everybody partakes in a portion of it, but to see it actually get to the point where a player has to sue, and it's going public. If it's going public, that there's a problem there. And I hope they figure it out. I hope there's a more innocent explanation for this.
I don't know.
It's a bad look.
Yeah, bad look. And just to clarify, because on a ribbon on the bottom, it says my dud is Baker Mayfield suing his family. No, I think he has to do that. The dud is his family. Like, if you don't have family, what do you have in this world? And that's going to be a tough thing. And I wonder how this could affect his play going forward, right? Like, he seems to be a really cool cat. Like, I don't know if you watch any Baker Mayfield highlights, but he's a fun guy to watch.
Chev, let me ask you, who'd you play for when you played? Those early days.
What do you mean?
You played so you could share it with your family.
Yeah.
Right? Like the success, like everything behind it. Your mom's in the stands, your dad, your brother. They're the ones you're calling, you're texting after the games, right? So yeah, this is, I don't know, $12 million. That's that's sad.
That's a lot of money. And Baker Mayfield, he's on a career resurgence in Tampa, from his days in Cleveland, where people thought, he was the issue. And again, he leaves and Cleveland's more of the same. He goes to Carolina, had some success there, but they went away from him. He goes to LA, has a great season in LA in relief of Matt Stafford, signs with Tampa after Tom leaves, and had two really good seasons. I mean, they were contenders in the playoffs last year until they met the Detroit Lions. And this year, people know who they are, but man, he's still playing some great football. Threw a huge block this weekend for his running back. I like his story. I think he's a guy that has fun out on the field. He's kind of everything everyone expected Johnny Manziel to be, but more consistent and had more in the game. So yeah, do you know
what this sounds like to me, Chev?
What's that?
Because we're talking about transitions, bringing things back again. He sounds like his family are a bunch of Biden and Trudeau supporters that are just in everybody else's pockets and feel entitled. How about that? Bring it full circle, to where we started.
Bring it full circle. Well, to bring it full circle, we probably have to recite another poem. I don't have any. I think we've run out of topics. We've hit everything we want to hit. Do you have any final thoughts for the night? Actually, you know what? before I go next week, guys, do yourself a favor. With the snow this weekend, I'm not a big TV guy. And when someone tells me to watch a series, it takes me forever to get into that series. But this weekend I tried a new series, and man, I was hooked right away. I know we're going to get going, Sheldon, but you guys have to check out Landman on Paramount Plus. Billy Bob Thornton, John Hamm, Demi Moore. Man, what a show. It's literally about the oil and gas industry. So if you have any connection to Alberta and want, again, I don't work in the oil and gas industry. So for me, it is a bit mysterious that this huge engine and machine that runs, my province, I don't know much about. So this show, I do have some friends that work in the oil and gas industry, and they love it.
Do they show, like, does it get right down on the rig sites and the workers and all that stuff?
Oh yeah,
yeah. So it does do that, yeah.
Oh
so
yeah,
I might check that out. I used to work on the rigs. Right out of college, when I was trying to break into the CFL, I spent a couple of winters working on the rigs, and I'll tell you, it's a different animal, man.
They do, and they show that. They show a lot of that, and so it's produced by is it Terry Sheridan? The same
Tracy Sheridan.
That produces like that. Yellowstone.
Yeah.
That produces Yellowstone, and very Yellowstone-esque opening scene, but even better. Like, everything happens faster, less characters to worry about, so less time that I had to develop the story. Taylor Sheridan, and
that was it.
You're right into it right away. The opening scene kicks off like he's a landman, so he's got to take care of the land. He's got to take care of the drilling crews. He's got to negotiate the contracts, and literally the opening scene starts with the landman with a bag over his head negotiating mineral surface rights with the cartels.
Okay, that's not exactly how it went in my experience in Alberta, but what an amazing story. And I'll tell you what, I see a couple of guys respond to this. I think we're going to get some guys following Landman. I think this might even be worth me re-upping my Paramount, which I parked when Yellowstone and everything shut down for a while with the writer strikes, all that stuff. I just haven't brought it back again. So I think this week I will bring Paramount back. Guys, you do the same thing. Next week, I'm going to check out Landman, and maybe we'll devote a segment to what's going on in the oil patch in that show. So we'll see how real it is anyway.
You know what? Maybe like some people have a book club. Like, I don't like to read as much, but I'll watch a show, and maybe we can all just kind of join together on a show and see what we think about it. So yeah, let's do Landman. Watch a couple of episodes. I think there's 3 that have been released. Maybe a 4th one might come out this week, but check it out. Tell me if I'm crazy or tell me if you love it. But Billy Bob Thornton, man, I'm not a big fan of his, but he is so good in the show. And the one-liners, man, it's got something for everyone. That's all I'll tell you. And especially for our type of show, a dude show, I love it.
Amazing.
A little bit of everything.
Guys, I'll tell you what, we're running late as we always do. So maybe we're actually early this time, but just want to thank you guys for all that stuck out with us for the entire show. Thanks so much for joining us every week. Chevy and I really appreciate it. If you guys have any thoughts, comments, guys, feel free to share it onto our socials. Ideas for the show, interview ideas. Let us know, and we're going to do our best to make that stuff happen for you. But one last time, guys, thanks again for joining us on this late Tuesday night. Thanks for joining us on The Ride.